So the month is officially over, and that means it's time for a wrap up. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is the December 2023 wrap up. So officially, it is 2024. Happy New Year. I hope that 2024 is everything you need it to be. I really do. I really hope it's everything you need it to be. I hope it's everything I need it to be. And I hope it's just a very melodramatic year on my end. I would really love for it to be just like boring and exciting, nothing surprising, nothing new. I would really just love like a boring year, honestly. But we will get into all of that of what I'm hoping for 2024 in another episode. Today is the 2023 December wrap up. So it's going to be all the books I read in December plus the ratings. Little reminder of my rating scale. Before we get into it, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. So, rating system. Okay, pretty simple. 5 stars, best of the best, absolutely loved it, no issues, will highly recommend it to anybody and everybody. 4 stars, I still really liked it, but I did have some issues. Maybe it was pace, maybe it was plot, maybe there were like little holes, maybe I didn't like one of the characters, something. I still really liked it and I will recommend it, but I didn't love it. 3 stars, didn't like it, but it was a subjectivity issue, which just means that the book really wasn't meant for me, you know, like it probably would be a good book to somebody else, but for whatever reason that I'll get into, it didn't work for me. I will still recommend it to people if I know it's a genre or plot theme or something that they really like, but yeah, it wouldn't be my favorite book ever. 2 stars means I didn't like it, it had some fundamental issues, and I probably won't recommend it. 1 star, worst of the worst, absolutely will never recommend it, and I hate that I wasted my time reading it. It's only a few books that got the 1-star rating like in my years as a reader, so yeah, don't worry, none of them are on today. So I actually read 4 books in December, which I was like so proud of myself, because lately it's just been 3 books and I've been struggling to get through 3 books a month, but I really wanted to hit my reading goal. I really wanted to hit my 2023 reading goal because I feel like the year in general had been such a struggle, such a disappointment on a lot of different levels for me, that I was not willing to let this one other thing that I had complete control over go. I wasn't going to finish the year not meeting that goal. I really wanted to do it because I couldn't let one other thing that I had control over go. Do you know what I mean? So I finished strong, hit my reading goal, and I'm so proud of myself. And like I said, I'm glad 2023 is over. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into what I read in December. The first book I read in December was I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall. Okay. This was on 2 maybes list. So I was like, I have to read it. Like, it's the perfect winter aesthetic for me. This is like what I like to read this time of year. And it just sounded super interesting. Okay, premise is a girl loses her mother in a terrible accident, and she has to go live with her father, who lives very off-grid in the Alaska wilderness. And soon after she ends up there, there's a fire at their cabin, and she has to figure out how to survive long enough for help to get there. Underneath this is like an underlying revenge type story that's happening, and we do get that piecemeal throughout the book until the culmination at the end. So what did I think of this book? I am going to be honest, I was really disappointed in this book right from the jump because I didn't know that it was going to be a YA novel. And I don't know why that didn't click with me, because it literally said in the premise that like her mother died and she was going to reconnect with her father. But I interpreted reconnecting as like she chose to go do that, like as an adult maybe, or like, you know, 18, 19, something like that, like maybe in college. She was making a conscious effort to reconnect with her dad because he was the only family she had left. Like, that's what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't. Like, this girl was straight up a minor, and her mother passed away, and so she really didn't have any choice but to go live with her biological father, who was living like this very off-grid lifestyle. So right away I was like, YA. I was not really looking for a YA story in this book. If you've been with my channel a minute, you know I have mixed issues with YA, just because like I'm so far away from that age range now. Like, yeah, that it's, the relatability is not there for me anymore. Like, it's really hard for me to get in the mindset of these characters and to like appreciate some of the struggles that they're going through, because they seem so minor. But to, you know, a young adult audience, these issues would seem rather intriguing and honestly awesome, but for me they just don't work anymore. So I've been trying to kind of steer away from YA because it just hasn't been giving me a lot of anything, you know? So anyway, like right away I was a little bit off put because it was a YA story. Then it actually got really, really interesting because like off-grid lifestyle and everything in Alaska, I find really interesting, like being that self-sustaining when you're that far removed. Plus there's this other underlying story, like I said, of like the cabin did not just like accidentally get set on fire or something, like it was intentional. There was an intentional issue here that happened to this girl and her father, where she's now left alone in the Alaskan wilderness to try and survive until help can come. So I found that really intriguing. And then once we started into the novel and really got into the meat of it, it was so many pages of survivalism. So many pages, like hundreds of pages of day-to-day survivalist stuff, and that just really did not work for me. I think if you like that kind of content in a book, then this book would really, really work for you. I found it very monotonous, very tedious, and very tiring to listen to her struggle to survive for hundreds of pages. We do get some good disability rep in this book and some really great conversations that I enjoyed, that I thought were very important and interesting to hear. So we do get some disability rep in this book. Overall, I ended up giving it 3 stars because the ending, oh my gosh. I can't even talk about the ending. I cannot even talk about the ending of this book without getting upset. Okay, I was really disappointed in the ending. Let's just leave it at that. Like, I got drugged through this survivalist how-to guide for hundreds of pages just to end it like that. We all survived that book together, okay? Yeah, this book just really wasn't for me. Like I said, some really great disability reps, some really great disability conversations that I loved having. There were some really nice hard-hitting issues in this book, but the survivalist aspect of it really took over, and then the ending, I just was so disappointed with how everything turned out at the end that I just can't even... I could not even deign to give it 4 stars because I just was so disappointed. I was so disappointed, and there were just so many questions that I had at the end of the book that just never got answered, and I also found that highly disappointing. So yeah, 3 stars. If you like survivalist type stuff, this might be for you, but I mean, you have to like survivalist type stuff. Pages and pages and pages of survivalist, okay? The next book I read in December was The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. Okay, so the cover says a lot about like the vibe of this book. Like, it's a winter snowstorm, right? We have this character, I think her name is Wiley now that I'm thinking about it, which I think is kind of a weird name, but she goes to this secluded cabin in this small town to finish writing her book. She writes true crime books, and so she goes to this cabin to finish writing this book. While she's there, there's a huge snowstorm that comes through, and her power goes out. Her dog tells her that there's something outside. She goes outside and she finds a small child outside in the snow. And then we kind of unravel the secret of, or the mystery of, why this child is outside. Where, you know, are there people looking for them? Is there someone out there? It turns out there is someone out there looking for this child. And then we get this huge story of how this all happened. The interesting part about this book is it's told in 3 separate timelines. So we're getting 3 separate stories, and it's like kind of your job as the reader And well, I mean, and the writer kind of puts it together for you at the end, but to kind of mesh these stories together and figure out what's going on, because there's a lot of true crime stories that are also happening in this book because the author is like a true crime writer. And so we're trying to like piece all this stuff together as we're going. So we're not just solving one mystery, if you will. We're solving like multiples. We're trying to put this all together and see how it all kind of comes together in the end and what the outcome ends up being. This book was so exciting to me. I was just really hooked into all the different storylines right from the beginning. Like, I could not put this down. It was such an easy read. And I thought the thriller, it was very thriller-ish, honestly. Like, lots of thriller aspects, lots of mystery aspects. Then we have this, like, true crime back burner story that's happening as well that we're trying to, like, figure out. A lot of really, really cool stuff happening in this book. The suspense was there. There was actually quite a bit of gore in this book, which I was, like, really surprised about because I just wasn't really expecting that. Every time I thought I had it figured out, I didn't. Every time I thought I was on the right path, I was just a little bit off. It was just very exciting read. Now, I ended up giving it 4 stars because there were just a lot of questions at the end. I still had a few questions at the end of the book that I just didn't think were properly answered that really just nagged at me. Like, even now, I read this like really early December. I'm still thinking back to it. I'm like, why did this happen this way? Why? We never got an answer to this, this, and this. So I still had a little bit of questions that did not get answered, which to me means plot holes, and I hate plot holes in thrillers. But overall, this was a solid thriller. Like, I really liked what the author did. The pace was amazing. The stories were really well told. I think this was really well done. This is probably one of my top thrillers for the year because of how well it was put together. There were just a few little loose ends at the end that upset me. Otherwise, though, very good. Okay, the next book I read in December was The Christmas Jigsaw Murders by Alexandra Benedict. If you've been with my channel a minute, you know that I read like The Christmas Murder Game. I think that's what it's called. Last January, I think. And I really loved how that was put together. And so the opportunity came up for me to do this on audiobook, which was great because I was traveling in December and like it ended up working out perfectly that I could have this audiobook. So this is about an older woman. I think she's in her 80s and she's like a crossword writer. And she also does like jigsaw puzzles on the side. Well, one day she gets this package like right around Christmas time. And inside are a few pieces of jigsaw puzzle saying, and a note saying that there's going to be like a bunch of people dead by Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And basically it's her job to like solve the puzzle and figure out who the victims are going to be and like potentially save them. It's really interesting. I thought the pace was really good. That was my big complaint on the last Alexandra Benedict book I read, was that the pace was just not that great. The pace was actually really good here. The puzzles were hard, okay? Like, I had a hard time figuring things out, but I liked that Alexandra Benedict led it in a way that it wasn't too easy for the main character to figure out, but she also got a lot of help along the way, which I also thought was really nice. There was just a lot of really cool things happening here. And the ending, I could not have predicted that ending. Like, I know that they laid the pieces out. I know that Benedict laid the pieces out the whole way. Like, so when you look back on it, you're like, oh, it was one of those. When I look back on it, I'm like, man, I'm really mad I didn't see the little signs along the way. But it was really well put together and I really liked it. I will say the audiobook is very British. It's very British. I really like that aspect, but like, I know that maybe that might be a little off-putting to people, so it's a very British audiobook. So if you're not into that, don't read the audiobook, or don't listen to it, I guess. But my husband has started listening to this as well, and he says he's really into it already, so, and he does not really read thrillers that often. So I feel like that's a good sign that it was done pretty well. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't know why I gave it 4 stars, honestly. Like, there's not like a real reason why it needed 4 stars as opposed to 5, except that I just felt like sometimes there was too much movement and I had trouble kind of keeping everything straight, keeping characters straight, keeping witnesses straight, And I had a hard time with the ending a little bit, as of like, why did we pursue this avenue instead of another one? And I felt like the ending fell into place like so perfectly that it almost didn't seem plausible. But if you don't dig, this book is really, really good. Yeah, if you don't dig. But if you do dig, you might find some little inconsistencies or issues that you don't really like. So yeah, that's why I give it 4 stars, because it's not a perfect book. But it was a really fun book, and I had a good time reading it. And it was just kind of perfect for Christmas. And also, like, the main character, she was this old woman. I mean, she's like in her 80s, but she still had like this sort of like spunk to her that I really liked. And she dressed in these like really ostentatious outfits, and she was super outspoken, and I just really liked her. Like, I really thought I wasn't gonna vibe with the main character, but she was really, really cool, and I really did like her. And she just had she had like a really sad story, honestly. And so it just was nice, I guess. Also, we get a lot of good rainbow rep in this book, which I really, really loved. So overall, super good. 4 stars. It's super British if you listen to the audiobook, but it was a ton of fun. The last book I read in December was Don't Forget to Write by Sara, Goodman, Confino. So this is new, like pretty new. And the reviews for this are really, really good. This was chosen for my book club, and I would definitely categorize this as like a contemporary fiction, or like a light romance fiction, I guess. We have our main character is the 1960s, and she's 19 or 20 years old. She's in college. She comes home from college, and she gets caught making out with the rabbi's son. They're Jewish, by the way. This is like a really, really big deal, and her dad's like super mad. So he's like, I'm gonna go send you to spend the summer with your great aunt, because she's kind of weird and angry and mean, and maybe she'll teach you a lesson. Well, this great aunt that he ends up sending her to is like a matchmaker, like a professional matchmaker. Like, that's what she does. And she's not married or anything. She runs her own business. It's like a really big deal for women in the 60s to do that. And so he sends her there, and she's automatically like, I'm gonna hate it here, it's gonna be awful. And then she ends up having like a great summer and reconnecting with her great aunt and figuring out what she wants to do with her life moving forward. So on paper, on premise, this sounds like a really great book, right? Like, we've got 1960s, we've got this woman that's like successfully running her own business, and we have this girl that's like, maybe about to get forced into an arranged marriage, and suddenly like wanting to find her freedom and everything. Like, it's very good, like, for women's movement and stuff like that. And then we get some rep from the Jewish community in here that's really good. We also get some BIPOC and rainbow rep in this book too, which is difficult in the 60s as well. I cannot tell you how much I dislike this book. I cannot tell you all how much I dislike this book. First of all, the privilege in this book was just so astounding. Everybody had money. Everybody had money. Like, this girl's family was made of money. They're sending her to college in the 60s. And the whole reason that she was going to college in the 60s was to find a husband. So when I first started reading this, it was giving very Mona Lisa Smile, right? And I was like, which I love that film. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get on with this. Like, girls like kind of figuring out that we don't have to do things this way, that we can actually get an education and like move forward. They're like, that's not the direction we went. That's not the direction we went. So then I'm like, okay, she's still trying to like figure out what she wants to do. Like, she knows she doesn't want to be a married woman. Like, she doesn't want to be traditional, right? And of course, like, as I'm reading this, I'm just trying to get into the mindset of it and trying to like be open-minded and like accepting, and I just can't. Like, she just read like as such a pick-me that it just rubbed me wrong. And again, just huge amounts of privileges. Like, all she did all summer was hang out at the beach and go eat at really fancy restaurants on someone else's dime and ride around in cars and go on dates, while somebody else paid for everything. And she just lived there with her great aunt. Her great aunt also had a ton of money. And part of it was like this empire that she'd built herself, but part of it was generational wealth that she invested to continue to make herself wealthy, which on the one hand was like, that's great. That's great to read about a woman like building her empire up. But it's like off the back of her dad, who built his own empire up of wealth and gave it to her when he died. I had very mixed feelings. I had very mixed feelings about this book. I'm not even getting into the worst of it, which is the whole ending of the book. My mind was just like, WTF. The last 30 pages was just a minefield of WTF moments. I would love to say that this was a very educational book. I did not find it very educational to women's rights. I did not find it very educational to the time period. I did not find it educational at all, honestly. I found it to be insanely privileged on a lot of levels. And there were some really hard-hitting issues in this book that Confino could have gone, and she didn't. There were a lot of hard-hitting issues that she could have dialed in on, and she just brushed them away instead and went on this other tangent of a story that I just really didn't relate to at all or get. I don't know. I just sound like a petty, sad person. Whatever, maybe I am. I ended up giving this 3 stars, and to me, I felt like that was insanely giving of me. I felt that was insanely giving of me because I wanted to like it so much, and I really liked the great aunt. I think her name was Ada. I really liked Ada as a character, and I thought she had like a lot of good intentions, and then like I just don't know what happened with the ending. I think Confino got bored writing it and just got rid of a bunch of stuff. I was really just disappointed in Ada at the end. And I was just disappointed with the main character pretty much the entire book. I really didn't ever come around to liking her. This also should be noted, this is not my genre of choice. I think if you really like contemporary literature, this might be for you. And if you like period pieces, which I also don't like, this also might be for you. I think that Confino had so much room to grow with this book, and she just didn't want to do it. I didn't really understand the mindset behind the choices that she made for this book. So yeah, I didn't love it. The reviews on this are so good that I don't know. I just don't think I was the right reader, which is why it got 3 stars, is because I just don't think it was for me. I don't think it was for me. So maybe it'll be for you, maybe not. But here it is. Don't forget to write. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. That was it. That's everything that I read in December. It was a very mixed bag. We had this survivalist book that I didn't really like. And then we had this like thriller book that I did really like. And then we had a murder mystery, which was also pretty fun. And then we had this like contemporary literary fiction piece that I did not like at all. Yeah, it was a really mixed bag. Like, we didn't have any repeating genres or anything like that, and I had really mixed reviews. Like, I really thought I was gonna love I Am Still Alive. I really thought I was gonna love that book. And Don't Forget to Write. I had really high hopes for that book. Like I said, the reviews were really good, and the premise of this book, like the blurb for this book, was really well written, and I was really interested in seeing like what a woman in the 60s was gonna try and do to not fall into the same patterns as everybody else at that time. Like a woman that was kind of like coming into her own and wanted to build her own future, write her own story, you know? And I was disappointed. Let me know if you hit your reading goal for 23. Next week we're going to recap the 23 reading goals and like see how I did. I'm honestly not looking forward to it because I don't think I did that well. I don't think I did that well with my goals. Honestly, I feel like I'm going to be disappointed. But we're going to recap on the goals, and then we're going to set our new goals for 24, so that should be fun. And then, yeah, I have a lot of great stuff planned for this year, you know, talking about books that I read last year and the directions that we want to go. And yeah, I hope you guys will hang out and come along for the ride. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week. And yeah, drop me comments, do the things, whatever. I love hearing from you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.